All right, we welcome you back to On the Hash with the Hatfield. We've got a special guest with us. He once upon a time had it all start for him in the 757 as a standout at Churchland High School in Portsmouth, then went on to play his college football for the Trojans of Virginia State University, now in his first year at the helm of the Glen Jaguars. We say hello and congrats on the 4-0 start to head coach Malik Sexton. Malik, good to see it. It makes me feel old every time I see you get a W because I remember you running around the field scrambling, making plays all over there for the Churchland Truckers. Then you went on to college, and now you're doing great things at Glen. So you got to be pretty pumped to feel the victory celebration after 4 wins here to start the year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Overwhelming, man. I think it's set in. We kind of like move past it now to try to keep my guys focused on the other tasks that we have down the line. But I'm excited, man. Excited about it.
As you should be. All right, it's something we ask players often after a big statement win, and you once were in those shoes not too long ago. But be honest with me, when you laid your head down on the pillow the night before and woke up, I'm sure you envisioned defeating Thomas Dale, but did you see it playing out as decisively as it did, 28-3? Because very seldom do they get beat by that kind of margin.
Right, man. I just got faith in my guys. Kind of the game plan, man. After we watched the film on that Saturday, and saw what they did offensively, defensively, and on special teams, we kind of knew, or we kind of like told our kids, like, hey, man, we're gonna win this game. Like we got this. So it was before the night of the game that we kind of like had that feeling. Now, did I think it was gonna go the way that it did? In my impression, I thought it was going to be a great game, a back and forth, a shootout. Because last year this team beat us 27-7. They humbled us and welcomed us to 6A. They're a very good team, a very well coached team with Coach Tucker. Did I expect it to be a 25-point margin? No. But was I excited and happy about it? You better bet it. You better bet it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Kevin Tucker certainly established the Knights as one of the better teams around in the state, the 804, and even before him, the late, great Vic Williams when they won a state championship against the 757 team in 2009 under Vic Williams. Malik, what were the keys you outlined with your guys going into that big game, and what tweaks, adjustments did you have to make at halftime, if any at all?
So going into the game, we knew that we were going to be able to play a brand of defense that they haven't seen us put on film yet. The other three teams that we played, man, there was a lot of run under center, 12, 13 personnel, even 32 personnel, one team. It was a lot of run, right? Heavy fronts, right? So we knew that, we know that in the box we're stout. We got some pretty good linebackers in Walter Brooks and Gavin Gallivan, right? And then our defensive line is very talented, very, very talented with Adam Ramadan and Jalen Brown on the inside. Then we had Jake Perini and William Ogbonna on the outside. We knew that in the box we were pretty stout, right? So we knew that the first three teams gave us a more than we could handle in the run game, and we did pretty good with that. So we knew that this week we were coming up against a team who liked to spread the ball out, spread us out, which is our strength. And a lot of teams don't know that we have one of the best defensive backfields in the state. Aaron Diggsbury, Tyson Grandison, Ahmed Kamara, Camden Tiller, and Javion Harris. Those guys, they play pretty stout. So we knew going into the game that we were going to be playing to our strengths, which is a true 4-2-5 spread style defense. But we also knew that, as any team does, we knew that this well-coached team was going to adjust. And we knew that they were going to try to take advantage of some of the weaknesses that we put on film. So we knew the adjustment coming out the halftime was something that we hadn't seen them do. We knew it was going to be some kind of heavy front, tight front, but we were prepared for that, right? All week our kids said, well, Coach, we didn't see that on film. They didn't run that on film. We knew that, right? But we knew that that coach was a good coach as well, and he would see what teams were able to get on us on film, and he would sprinkle that in his game plan. That's exactly what happened. So we knew that we would be able to take advantage on the special teams because we saw a few guys on their return teams drop some kicks, muff some kicks. So we knew we would be able to take advantage there. And I'll say from 7 minutes and 30 seconds left into the second quarter on to the rest of that game, we watched our game plan flourish.
Love that answer, going really in depth there. What's it mean, Coach, the significance for Glen to be 4-0 for the first time in program history, and for you to be enjoying this kind of success in your first year at the helm?
Man, it means a lot. It's the biggest program, it's the biggest win in program history to date. But like I tell a lot of people, man, Perry Jones had laid the foundation here the last 5, 6 years that he was here as the head coach, and I was blessed to be under him for the 3.5 years that I've been here before now. To kind of like learn the ropes and actually being taught things that you don't even know that you getting lessons out of it and preparing me for this very spot, man. Perry was an amazing mentor and leader. So we knew going into it, whether he stayed or somebody else came in, we knew what was set for this team. We've been saying it since these kids were freshmen. The class of 2025 is going to be special. It's going to be special, right? So we do think that, you know, this is the biggest win for program history so far, but we still got 11 more wins to go to make this thing as special as we really want it to be.
I want to go there with you. Did you envision back then in your high school and college days, and when Perry Jones was playing, you talked about him and Oscar Smith standout, UVA, and then now an assistant at William & Mary. He was the head coach prior to you there at Glen Allen. That coaching would be something you'd want to do. And what drew you to Glen Allen first as an assistant with Perry, and then that opportunity when it came about to be the head man?
Football ended abruptly for me as a player. It was a lot of expectations that I had of myself, that I felt like I dropped the ball on and made some bad decisions and hurt myself in that aspect. So I kind of stayed away from ball, man. I graduated in 2018. I didn't begin to coach with him until immediately after that spring COVID season. And it was one of my teammates who's now the recruiting coordinator and offensive line coach at Virginia State University, Chris Wilson. He kind of reached out to me a few times. Hey, man, they could use a guy like you. They could use a guy like you. You know your stuff. You're high energy. And I kind of turned him down. Then one day I was just like, you know what, man, I need to be back around football. I weighed out my options and tried to figure out what was missing in my life, and it was football. So that's what brought me to Glen Allen. I haven't coached anywhere else other than Glen Allen. And then when he said, you know, the coach is Perry Jones, I said, Oscar Smith Perry Jones? He said, no, he said, UVA Perry Jones. I said, that's the same Perry Jones. I'll be there today, right? So and once I met Perry, we kind of like hit it off. He kind of assumed that role as, you know, big brother and mentor to me. As he knew that I was going to be a little rough around the edges. He just helped me, man. I don't even have enough words to explain the help that he gave me. And, you know, going through some of these situations that I've been going through here, he's still helping me even behind the scenes now, in terms of the mental aspect of being in the chair and understanding that the pressure that's behind it. So that's kind of what brought me to it, man. Seeing how he operated within the role and how he was able to stay so calm, cool, and collected throughout everything. That kind of let me know, like, hey, man, if I wanted to do anything else with the game of football, it was to kind of like, you know, do it the exact same way that he did it.
That's some fantastic, honest reflection I love from you there. Let's back it up some more, because before we move forward to some of your guys and what's on deck for the Glen Allen Jaguars here on The Hash with Hatfield, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Virginia Preps, X, Facebook, Twitter, all over the web, Instagram too. You obviously do have roots from the 757s. We talked about being a standout at Churchland High School, Eastern
Yes.
District Conference, 17
Fourth
offensive
of
player of the
Virginia.
year when you were a quarterback, and then Virginia State. What are your fondest memories as a player, A, be it at the prep and collegiate levels, and then B, Malik, and going back to that reflection, what as a player has helped you from those trials and tribulations, the good and the bad, into being a head coach? What do you think take me through the fondest memories when you played, and then what's helped you in this transition from going from playing to assistant coach to head coach?
Right. So, as a player in high school, man, I had a rough start. I assumed the role after a very good quarterback, Willante Roscoe, when I was just a sophomore. I took over right after he graduated. And I had some rough starts. 3-7, 3-7, and then my senior year, I'll say on the high school level, what stood out to me the most was my senior year. I was actually showing how good I really was as a football player. And we were 5-0 for the first time, I think, in like 50 years back then in 2014. Um, and that right there put stuff into perspective for me, like, hey, you could be doing something special, right? You could be doing something special here. And then I'll fast forward. That took me to college at Virginia State, where I was blessed to be coached by some amazing coaches in Latrell Scott, Justin Harper, Byron Threet. And then the one that I had the longest was Reggie Barlow. What stood out to me the most was I've been around some losing teams. I've been on some losing teams. My freshman year at Virginia State, we won a championship, and I was just a red shirt, right? A rookie learning the ropes. But then as a junior, we went 10-0, undefeated, and won a ring under Reggie Barlow. So I think that year was the most memorable year for me, where I kind of assumed the leadership role as being one of the younger guys out there. I was a junior, right? I was a full-time starter for the first time. I split reps the year before that, and kind of assuming that leadership role. I was chosen a lot to address the team at the end of practice and say things like that. And my defensive coordinator, DeJuan Sanders, he was so hard on me. He was so hard on me, man. I think I understand it more now, because even after that season and being placed and pushed into that leadership role, I still made mistakes. And I made a mistake that kind of took me away from ball. For that spring semester, I was suspended away from the team. A lot of people don't know that about me. I had made a bad decision. And once I was able to recuperate from that, my coach he was 10 times harder on me then. And in my senior year, I was actually dismissed from the team before it was right before the Bowie State game. I was brought back the week of Bowie State, but I was dismissed from the team because of my attitude and some of the things that I said to one of my coaches. And it took Coach Barlow to sit me down and say, "Hey, man, um, instead of letting you go and kicking you off this team, I want this to be a lesson for you and a story that you can sit back and tell your children one day, whether it's a coach, whether it's your own daughter. At that time I had just had a daughter, right? He said on how you finished and pushed through this adversity, opposed to how this adversity stumped your growth and took the best thing away from you, which was football. And I think at that moment, I knew that I realized that football was teaching me and giving me more lessons than just how to tackle and how to read the offense, and how to read a defense. It taught me work ethic. It taught me perseverance. It taught me a character, strong character. It taught me that I had to have it because it would be the only defense that I needed in the room to speak up for me when I wasn't there. And Coach Barlow instilled that in me after those moments. And I think those were the biggest moments that brought me to coaching. And now I see myself on the other side trying to coach my guys through a lot of those hard moments. And it's harder because Coach Barlow was coaching men, right? It was easier to get men to realize those mistakes that they're making. I'm coaching young men, and at the earliest age is 14, 13 years old, where they don't understand the detriment of some of the decisions that they make. And me being able to, paint the picture for them and see consequences and results from not only bad decisions, but when we make the right ones. That's brought me to be in the position that I am now.
Really deep, and we appreciate all the
Sorry that
insight
I'm
from you.
long-winded. I apologize for the
No,
long-winded.
it's great. I think people hearing that story is awesome to get this from you. I was joking with someone after I heard the score your big game Friday night. I was covering Thomas Jefferson of Richmond and Norcom, another podcasting host. I joked. I said you can take the boy or the young man out of the 757, but you can't take the 757 out the young fella. Which you've got it in you. We love it. Hey, let's talk about your guys now in the 804 though, Malik.
Yes,
Dallas Chavis in particular. Let's start with him. You talked about some guys on defense like the Jalen Browns, the Camden Tillers, who we're going to get to, and others, but tell us about him. 35 rushes for $198, 3 TDs. What makes him such a unique weapon for you running the football? I saw him last year in that scrimmage when you guys came down and played grass. So he's got some promise. Little did I know he'd be this good.
Right. No, man, we knew it all along. We knew last year was his first year on varsity, so we knew we had to work out the kinks a little bit. When you're the man on JV, sometimes when you come to varsity, you automatically assume that it's going to be that same way for you. But how I used to tell him last year, man, all these kids are just as good as you. You know what I'm saying? They're just as good as you, so you gotta set yourself apart. And I think he took that on, and he's one of the sharpest kids on our team, football wise. Football IQ is through the roof. And what makes him so different than the average running back is that he is a dynamic guy. I call him the home run hitter. This kid can run out of any set, right? We can spread you out into 10 personnel and just have a 5-man offensive line without a tight end, without an H-back, and that guy can still find the hole and find a way to get positive yards. He makes something out of nothing. And what a lot of high school running backs are nowadays, they're kind of like one-dimensional, right? They can only run out of a spread. They can only run when they have 3-4 extra blockers. This kid can line it up in the I formation and run in between the guards right off the tackle. He can line it up in the spread, right? We can even flex him out at receiver, and this guy can make some big plays. So, and I think it shows on his film. He's very underrated, under the radar. Like you said, a lot of people didn't know he was going to be as good as he is, but I think Dallas Chavis, with this past week, he put the state on notice. Not only is he backed by a great supporting cast, but he is the real deal. And I think that's what sets him out apart. He has amazing speed, amazing vision, and elusiveness in terms of his physical aspect. But I think the mental is what sets him apart, his football IQ.
Yeah, that stuff matters. There's no question about it, as you well know. And tell us, we talked about, you brought up briefly earlier, Camden Tiller is one of those guys in your secondary. I know he's got multiple D1 offers, and I got an interception this past Friday night. And do I have it right? I heard or read that he had 4 pick sixes a year ago. What sets him apart in that secondary?
I'm selfish. I always say it was 5 because I count the scrimmages too, right?
Okay,
right.
okay.
So if we count the scrimmages, he had 7 interceptions and 5 pick sixes.
Wow.
But right, yeah, no, this kid is electric. He's electric. He has a great supporting cast as well. The corner opposite of him is Ahmed Kamara, right? And it's a good 1-2 punch. It's like having a speed on offense, a speed back and a downhill back, right? Ahmed is the guy that's technically sound. He's going to be in his position every single time. He's going to shut down his side of the field. The quarterback isn't going to throw there. Camden Tiller is that exact same kid, but he has that bait aspect, right? He can make you think that wide receiver is open and at the last minute jump right in front and make that play. That's why his numbers speak for themselves. He's extremely knowledgeable about his position and extremely serious about his craft. And I think that's what sets him apart. Is the kid is sharp. He's one of those kids that's real mellow, calm, cool, laid back. Right, he isn't a rah rah guy. But you never realize that he's listening until you sit back and you ask him someone else ask him a question, right? And then he'll repeat what we just told him maybe 3 weeks ago, verbatim, word for word, right? Extremely sharp kid, man. And I think that's what sets him out apart. He's just electric. He knows and has the confidence that I'm the best guy at my position on the field. I don't care who you line up in front of me. He's gonna make it happen and find a way to come out on top.
That's terrific. In our final few minutes with you, Malik Sexton, head football coach in his first year at the helm of the Glen Jaguars, the undefeated Jaguars at 4-0. They've got Douglas Freeman
Yes,
on
sir.
deck. Tell us about some others. You hit on the defensive guys, and you got about 7 or 8 multi-year, 2 or 3 year starters on that side of the football
Right.
for you. But there's always a couple of unsung players, whether it be an offensive lineman, a special teams guy, an X factor that helps you and have been essential contributors to your success. Highlight a few of those if you can.
Right, I'll start with offense because I'm all naturally as a defensive coordinator. I always show love to the defense all the time. But on offense, man, we're blessed to have some really good guys on the offensive line. Man, Nick Zasef, who's a 3-year starter for us on varsity. We also have a young guy that came up from JV last year. He's a junior. A Nehemiah Ferguson, Clement St. Clair, and our left guard, really big kid, can move, really aggressive. Our center Blake Martin, who is also our 5-star long snapper. And then we kind of rotate guys at guard. But our starting guard, Teddy Bonham, is really physical as well, man. We got some big size. Out of all those guys, I think the smallest guy is 6'2", right? Biggest guy is Clement at 6'5". So we got some really big guys up front that kind of help Dallas get rolling. But we also have another running back that we've added, that we added in the offseason, in Deshaun Green, who was a standout at Patrick Henry a few years back. That kid is really good as well. He's a good change of speed for Dallas. And then our wide receivers on the outside, Javonte Winston, Leroy Lewis, and then our unsung hero. He doesn't get enough recognition. I think he deserves a whole lot more, which is Davis Fisher, number 13, our slot guy. This kid is a first-year varsity kid. Leroy and Javonte played up top with us last year, but Davis is the unsung hero. He doesn't get the recognition that he deserves, man, in the blocking game, and just simply in route running. Altogether, that kid is amazing. And just remember the name. He's going to put some guys on notice here soon. And then if I just to go and highlight our defensive guys again, man, we're a talented group of guys on defense. When I say talented, I mean extremely talented. All the outsiders get to see is the physical. They get to see those guys making the plays on film. But one thing that I know is that these guys are some of the sharpest football players around, and it hasn't always been that way here at Glen Allen. They put the work in and spent the time with the coaches and their position coaches to learn the game inside and out, learn the scheme inside and out, but also take a deeper understanding in their role within the scheme and kind of like assume it. I talked about those defensive backs, man. Aaron Diggsbury is one that I have to, tip my hat to because I've watched the progress from this kid from the 8th grade all the way to his senior year. He's our leader on the field as far as our defensive backs, him and Tyson. But Aaron is the vocal leader. He's extremely physical. He's the rover for us, so he comes down and plays in the box, right? He's that guy that's coming back to the sideline and tell me whatever his key is on that play. He's coming back and tell me, hey, coach, the guard did this, so the running back is lined up this deep in the backfield, or hey, coach, my receiver's giving me this type of release. That guy is amazing. It's amazing to see the growth and see him play on the field. But as far as our defense, man, our linebackers, I give a lot of credit to because at one point they were the weakest point of our defense when they were starting out as 10th graders. And then we had Walter Brooks come out and join us last year when he transferred over. His first year was in the program. Walter Brooks and Gavin Gallivan are kind of like the anchors of that defense. They make things go. Those guys are extremely physical, extremely knowledgeable. They come downhill, shoulder square, great lateral movement. And then our defensive line, I think the guy who doesn't get the recognition, he plays with a very high motor, is Adam Ramadan. Adam Ramadan, 55, is a sight to see as a football player. 87 tackles out of a 3-tech last year. It's unheard of in high school football. That kid is amazing to watch. Right, he's amazing to watch. But the most scrappiest kid that I kind of reminds me of me back when I was at Virginia State, his name is Javion Harris.
Okay.
5'9", 170 pounds, right? Undersized, but he has the heart to back it up and the confidence too. So our defense and our offense all around, man, is a pretty stout. Is a pretty stout group of kids.
Yeah, you're doing big things if you're holding 4 opponents to start the season to 17 points total, and 2 of those running intricate offenses like Massaponics and Thomas Dale there. Last
Yes,
2 for you, and we
very
thank you so
talented
much
team.
for the time. Yeah, we thank you so much for the time. Last 2 for you, let you run. You got to get ready for practice in a game coming
Yes,
up.
sir.
We can hear and see and feel that passion and love you have for the game and these kids in this program. But when you get a signature win like the one you just had, Malik, it always fascinates me to see how the squad does from there, makes it stick. Is it using it as perhaps a springboard? So I say that to ask, what's next for the Glen Allen Jaguars in terms of how good can this team be and what all can you accomplish?
Man, I've been preaching to these guys since the summertime, 10-0 or better. Nothing matters unless we're 10-0 or better. And not just 10-0 just to get to the first round of the playoffs and lose like we did last year. Not just 10-0 to make it to the regional championship. We want to make history, not just with a 4-0 start, right? That's good for the glitz and glam and for the people who don't know or who are outside of this program. It's good, right? But these kids know the expectation, right? They know the level of focus. I told them Sunday was the last day that they get to celebrate that win. Monday, we watched the film. We corrected the things that needed to be corrected, and then as of yesterday, we're already focused on Douglas Freeman that we have next week. We're on a bye week now, but we're treating this week as a work week. So we have high expectations. It's 11 more weeks to go until we get to where we need to be, and that's the expectation. We set the bar. We're not going underneath of it.
Awesome. And to finish up with here and follow up on that, I know you have Douglas Freeman next with some intriguing matchups against perennial contenders to follow in Varina and Hermitage. How important, whether the record finishes at 10-0, 9-1, 8-2, whatever it is, in your eyes, is it to get that number 1 seed and potentially home field advantage in the playoffs in Region 6A if you can achieve it in a region where there are usual powers like Highland Springs, Dale, who you just played, Manchester, as well as teams from the 7-5-7 like Oscar Smith, who's unbeaten currently, Lancetown, Western Branch, Grassville. How pivotal in your eyes is it to get that 1 seed and make them come through Glen Allen if you can do that?
I think it's great. I think it'll be a great opportunity. But last year we had home field advantage in the playoffs, and we still lost by 11 points to Oscar Smith. So I don't really want to get caught up into all of that stuff, man. Having a number 1 seed is good and everything like that. But we just want to be playing in the playoffs on week 11. When it comes around, we want to be there and be playing no matter where it is. We'll travel. They can come to us. We just wanted to let people know that we're serious. We serious and we mean business.
Well, hey, that's a fresh and great perspective to have about it, no doubt about it. Malik Sexton doing an awesome job in his first at the helm of the Glen Allen Jaguars, the former 7-5 standout who played for the Churchland Truckers and also at Virginia State University for the Trojans. All the best to you. This has been a blast catching up with you. We look forward to seeing you guys down the road and hopefully catching your Jaguars in person on this playoff quest and perhaps a championship run too. And we'll talk to you down the road.
Yes, sir. Just definitely want to add that none of this is possible without my staff, right? So shout out to my entire staff. They're making this first year for me go seamless and amazing. I appreciate them as well. Thank you again, Mr. Hatfield.
Of the Glen Allen Jaguars. You bet it. We'll come back with more as we take a timeout. It's On the Hash with Hatfield. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button right here on our YouTube channel with CoVA Sports TV. We'll be back in just a moment.
Sir.